48 Laws to Power should be renamed to the 48 hours it takes to get through a damn chapter. Sheesh! This is a self-help book, and trust me, if you read the entire thing, you don't need any self-help. You have the concentration of a pilot and should just keep doing what you're doing. I heard someone describe this book as a game of chess. Bitch, what kind of chess are you playing? This is a book. As a teen, I thought this was an important book, but as I got older, I realized I could get the same advice from a manager of a grocery store. I think the most interesting power this book has to offer is being banned in the US prison systems for making COs look dumb. If you get manipulated by a convict reading a book, please, hand in your badge and gun. I will not go through every single rule or law or whatever you want to refer to it as, since most of the rules are repetitive and can be combined with the other ones. I will hit the ones that I believe are the most memorable and useful on a day-to-day basis. I'll try my best to fit as much information as I can. I read this book, so you don't have to. Let's get into it. Law number 1. Never outshine your master. Kiss your boss's ass as much as possible. You will get special treatment from it. Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use your enemies. Which sounds like a good idea, right? I mean, yeah, until the author includes the quote, "If you have no enemies, find a way to make some." I think this step could be avoided. Why would you want haters? But the friend thing, I totally get. He uses an important quote on page 11, paragraph 3. He says, "They forget the favors they have received and imagine they have earned their success by their own merits," which is very much true. I set up a date with 3 chicks and my buddy one night, and my buddy took all 3 home, and then called me the next day saying I fumbled the bag. Yeah, okay buddy, reread law number 2. Law 3 and 4 are basically the same. Conceal your intentions and always say less than necessary. Gangsters move in silence, and I don't talk a lot. Freak Mill said it the best.
Man, you doing it, man. You deserve it, daddy. You putting in that work.
Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Page 42 states, reputation is a treasure to be carefully collected and hoarded, especially when you first establish it. You must protect it strictly, anticipating all attacks on it. Once it is solid, like my poop, do not let yourself get angry or defensive at the slanderous comments of your enemies. That reveals insecurity and not confidence. So let people talk their shit. Don't defend yourself. Be the best pussy you can be. Law 6. Court attention at all costs. This basically means keep posting Instagram stories about how you're much better off without your ex. This will naturally get their attention, even when your friends tell you to stop. Remember, they're just haters. Law 7. Let others do the work for you, but take the credit. This step can really help with the plan to make enemies. Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. If you need an example of this, hop on a dating website and look for the bios that say, "Hit me up on Insta, I reply much faster there." They don't reply faster there. They never do. It's just for the followers. Law 9. Avoid foods with red dye number 40. Just kidding, that's not an actual law, but it really should be. Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. I have a buddy who's a great kid, but always has the worst luck. And to add to it more, I gotta cut ties with him. Sorry man, it's part of the law. Law 11. My absolute worst fear. Responsibility. Learn to keep people dependent on you. Page 88, last paragraph, Robert Greene states, "The weakness of making others dependent on you is that you are in some measure dependent on them." Sounds to me the pawn becomes the queen here. Or some chess reference. I don't know. I read this book and I still don't know how to play chess. So that person is still a fucking liar. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victims. Usually, this guy just blabs on for a few pages about Chinese emperors and Roman emperors, but the example he uses here is interesting. He uses an example from the 1926 gangsta, Al Capone, and a con man named Lustig. The con man borrowed 50,000 doll hairs from the gangsta and would tell Capone he would double his money. Well, The con man threw that cheddar in a lockbox, never touched it, and headed to New York. He comes back a few months later with the 50 grand and told Capone his plan was beat. Instead of the gangsta throwing his body parts in the river, Capone gifted the man 5 grand for his honesty. So moral of the story, get involved with the gangsters and try your best at being honest when you're scamming them. Call the Latin Kings and play the same trick. Go ahead, I dare you. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. You can take Robert Greene's complicated example of a soldier from the 19th century, or you could use this. My ex-boss would brag about trying to get his employees more money. He would constantly say the phrase, "What's the point of jet skis if you have no friends to use them with?" He would use that phrase to get us to work harder and longer, with us believing money's on the way. When in fact, it was just a gimmick for him to say so we would avoid fuck-ups and calling out. His plan worked very well. Smart bastard. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Be the most sus friend you could possibly be. People love that. We have a term for that in the young generation. What's it called? What do we call them? Oh yeah, we call them fake friends. Use your friends as intel, and I guarantee you it will lead you to law number 2. Make enemies. Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. I'm starting to think this author has more of a social issue than anything. All this guy talks about is fake friends and haters. What is this guy, 50 Cent? How many enemies can an author possibly have? The example he uses for this law is about a Chinese king in the year 625. That makes sense during that time to have enemies. You're a king, trying to make your kingdom bigger. Who is this book even for? A dictator? Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. If you feel that your job is no longer interested nor cares about you, don't show up the next day. I guarantee they'll keep calling and asking about your whereabouts. They will respect your absence, and if they don't, then tell them to read the 48 Laws to Power and direct them towards Law 16. Till death get the memo. Also, another example can be used when you're ghosted by your crush. Their absence makes you more infatuated with them. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Okay, it took 124 pages, and we are finally talking about the chess that bitch brought up. But this is a rock and roll story if I gotta say so myself. It involves a chess competition between Brooklyn kid Bobby Fischer and a Russian bitch named Spassky. Fischer would show up late to each competition and complain about the chairs, the lights, and the cameras. He would show up disinterested and clearly bothered. Spassky took this as an easy dub and wiped Fischer for 3 whole matches. Then, in the 4th match, Bobby shows up with anger in his eyes. He would not break eye contact with the Russian, and that made him feel uneasy. Bobby ended up winning the 4th match, the 5th match, and finally, in the 6th match, the most important one, Spassky accused Fischer of manipulation. He thought Bobby drugged his orange juice, and even blamed the chairs he was sitting on to be controlled by Bobby himself. All in the middle of the match. This was on live TV, making the Soviet Union look bad, and they ultimately resigned Spassky. Law 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. I'll be damned if my kid ever builds a couch fort. I'll tear that shit down and throw this book in his 5-year-old face. But on a serious note, this chapter sounds less like a law and more of a cry for help. Maybe if this guy wasn't so busy manipulating his friends and making enemies, he wouldn't be so alone. Law 19. No cuts, no butts, no coconuts. Law 20. Do not commit to anyone. Alright, finally, an actual law that I follow religiously. Even though what Robert Greene really means is to never choose a side in battle, it's much easier to bail on your friends when you tell them you're just following the law. Oh, what's that? Gotta go to a dinner? Sorry, can't make it. I don't make commitments. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. I don't know too many marks, but when I meet him, I'll sure act stupid. Just kidding. Want to hear a story about the gold rush and con artists? Yeah, me neither. But this guy blabbers about it for a few pages. So I'll leave you with this Gen Z term to make this law easy to understand. Alright, you ready? You catch more flies with honey, but you catch more honeys being fly. Does that make sense? Well, if it doesn't, have fun reading about the gold rush and Chinese emperors. I promise you, it's not as fun as it might sound. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform your weakness into power. When you're up against someone who's double your size, knowing damn well you're about to get your shit kicked in, don't fight them. Retreat. Find where they work and make a fake complaint about them. Make up a lie to their spouse so there's no more trust in the relationship. Fighting will take away your energy from playing mind games. I mean, Green didn't write any of that, but you might as well. Law 23. Concentrate your focus. Page 172, paragraph 5. The Romans stretched the boundaries of their empire to encompass vast territories. In doing so, they increased their vulnerability and the chance of invasion from yet another barbarian tribe. Their useless expansion led to their empire into oblivion. Okay, first off, fuck you. This guy really asked where the Romans are now. You're looking at a motherfucker. That's a Sopranos quote if you guys didn't get that one. Law 24. Jesus Christ, we're only halfway. Play the perfect courtier. This can really be part of Law 1 with kissing ass, but it goes into more detail about how to kiss everyone's ass. He basically breaks them down into 14 parts. I'll go through each section, but I won't make it a novel like this guy did. Part 1. Be chill. Part 2. Don't blow too much smoke up the boss's ass. He'll be weary of your intentions, or think you're just a creep. Part 3. Be noticeable. Part 4. Dress and talk like the person you're trying to impress. Part 5. Don't tell people bad news. Just text it to them. Part 6. Don't have sex with your boss, even if that promotion is looking a little sus. Part 7. Don't talk shit. Part 8. Don't ask questions you know the answer to. Tell the wife you can't make the family trip before you even dare ask for the day off. Part 9. Don't be a comedian. We already live in a world full of clowns. Part 10. Don't be a dick. Part 11. Don't be a dick. Part 12. Don't cry. Part 13. Live with the generation, not against it. And finally, Part 14. Don't be a dick. Law 25. Recreate yourself. Very much true, unless you're a pedophile, because once you're a pedo, you're always labeled a pedo. Law 26. Keep your hands clean. Wash your hands while you sing the alphabet to make sure you're washing for the correct amount of time. And use soap, you sick fucks. Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. This law really needs to be emphasized more. There's nearly not enough cults around here. Trust me, if I had won 30 minutes for my house, you bet your ass I'd join. I don't mean the Taylor Swift cults. I'm talking Heaven's Gate, Jared Leto type shit. Nah, I'm just kidding. This guy really means to provide people with the belief that you are something to believe in. Law 28. Enter action with boldness. Mark Wahlberg has a quote that's pretty much the same. He says something along the lines of,
"If I was on that plane with my kids, it wouldn't have went down like it did. There would have been a lot of blood in that first-class cabin, and then me saying, okay, we're going to land somewhere safely. Don't worry."
Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. Okay, Robert Greene, you got me. For all the blabber you go on about, this one makes the most sense. He goes on talking about the Greek gods and how they can see the future and are always one step ahead, while mortal humans were left to their own fate. He explained that those who plan ahead and achieve their goals become almost godlike to those who live in fate. Damn, might invest as 20 instead of scratch-offs now. Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Basically, don't show weakness, you coward. Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. Be the power of reward and punishment. Allow freedom, but not too much freedom. Give them the fake Canadian freedom instead of the American oil freedom. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. Robert Greene could honestly just copy and paste Law 13 here and I wouldn't even notice. It's basically the same. But he includes to make sure their fantasies are unachievable, because once the average person achieves their goal, they no longer will be eager to work as hard. So if someone dreams of having kids in a house, make sure you throw them into debt so it will become unachievable. Law 33. Discover each person's thumbscrew. Basically, be a psychopath and learn everyone's weakness around you. Use it against them. You know, like how a psychopath does. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. This makes sense. Kind of like dress for the job you want, not the job you have. But instead of writing a simple little passage, he mentions how we as children are born into the world with demands from everything. We only grow to restrict our boundaries based on our failures that only get firmer as time goes on. Like a king's crown, it radiates power and royalty, almost like a sign, which is how we should view our desires. If we want great things, we must think great things, and it will radiate outwards like a king with a crown. Does that make sense? Let me break it down even simpler. Quoting the golden rule of Luke 6:31, do to others as you would have them do to you. Law 35, master the art of time. Do not be in a hurry. It betrays a lack of control over yourself. Do not be late. It comes off as a burden to those waiting. Do not waste time, like reading this damn book. Law 36, disdain the things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. Sorry, sweetheart. Those sad boy posts you make about your friends and your exes, guess what? You just gave them the win. As I preached in Law 3 and 4, gangsters move in silence, and I don't talk a lot. But I know a lot of you need constant reminders for this one. That's why he wrote it in 3 different ways. Law 37, create compelling spectacles. Learn magic. Law 38, think as you like, but behave like others. Basically, you like someone who was recently canceled, right? A comedian, actor, a singer, whatever. They say something you agree with, but the Reddit beehive mind does not. That's when you insert quote here.
I mean, I don't agree with the guy, but like, when do we separate the art from the artist?
Law 39, stir up the waters to catch a fish. Be a drama queen. Talk your shit. Get people angry. Laugh and poke fun about how mad they get. Law 40, if there's no handicap sign, you can legally park there. Again, not an actual law, but it's more useful to know than this whole chapter. Law 41, avoid stepping in a great man's shoes. Buy your own shoes, you cheap bastard. Law 42, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Gain the power and trust of people. Make them come to you for things instead of the person above you. Make them feel comfortable to ask you for requests and help. This will demoralize the person in a higher power than you. Law 43, work on the hearts and the mind of others. Green describes adults much like children, constantly leading with emotions. Use this as your advantage to alternate between harshness and mercy. I'm going to use quotes from page 372 because it's much funnier than anything I've written. He states, play on their basic fears, and also their love, freedom, family, etc. Once you break them down, you will have a lifelong friend and a fiercely loyal ally. Bro, what? Is that the tactic you use to make friends? By the way, this guy isn't married either. He does have a partner who's a couple years younger than him, but he's still not married. Law 44, disarm and infiltrate with a mirror effect. 16 pages it took this guy to get his point across. 16 pages. That is an unnecessary amount of pages for him to say, act like the person your audience wants you to be. 16 pages to write that. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. Basically saying that you are aware of the changes needed, and you are on their side for a better future. But do not give them a better future. Let them work for it, rewarding the people as goals are achieved. I kind of want to fight this guy. God forbid you make someone's life easier all at once. But this kind of explains politics. Law 46. Never appear to be too perfect. Again, this dude is just beating a dead horse at this point. This could have easily been written in several different laws. But he's getting paid by the page. And let me tell you, writing bullshit is this guy's bread and butter. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aim for. In victory, learn when to stop. Funny, this guy should have took his own advice and stopped writing 200 pages ago. But on a serious note, do not bite off more than you can chew. Accept the goals you have achieved, and do not let success and victory go to your head. The more you want, the more winning becomes dangerous to those you love in your own mental state. Finally, Law 48. Assume formlessness. Seriously? 420 pages I read just for the final law to be something that almost every law touched on? This is like the worst M. Night Shyamalan ending ever. It was all in front of my face this entire time? Fuck that. Law 38, 32, 27, 14, and 8 all go into detail about the same exact thing. Also, it contradicts Law 25 of recreating yourself. You told us 300 pages ago that we can take shape as anyone and create a label that you want to be described as. Now you're telling us the opposite? Be a shapeshifter and don't be yourself? You should have said that during the chapter. I've read this entire book twice now. Once in high school because I wanted to be the next Hugh Hefner, and I thought this book would lead me there. The second time was to make the stupid video. And let me tell you, I had no joy in reading either time. I get more of a sense of power when I listen to gangster rap than this shitty book. The best way I can describe this book is a step-by-step on how to be a sociopath and to die alone. Just read American Psycho, and you'll legit get the same results, but at least that book was entertaining to read. This is not a game of chess that people might describe it as. It's more of the opposite of a self-help book, actually. I read this book so you don't have to, and I feel like I became a worse person from it. Now, if you excuse me, I have the knowledge to become a dictator and a tyrant ruler, so I'm gonna go lead a small nation into war. Thank you.